They say some women are born lucky, but I never imagined my so-called luck would become a curse in disguise. I was the direct disciple of Master Everett, the fifth sage of the Sacred Mountains, and I was born with an aura that amplified wealth and fortune. That gift was the very thing Jason Freeman used to chain me to his world. For 8 years, I was the perfect wife on paper, quiet, supportive, nourishing. His company flourished, his status soared, and people called him the miracle of North City. But the truth behind that miracle was my blood, literally. On our wedding anniversary, I had already made up my mind to return to Wutai Mountain permanently, to leave behind the material world and seek peace in spiritual solitude. That night, however, I stumbled upon something I was never meant to hear: Jason's voice, low and intimate, speaking to Rachel Moore, our 22-year-old live-in nanny, in the study. "You drug her every night and draw her blood to boost my luck, so our baby survives? Aren't you afraid she'll leave you?" Rachel giggled, her voice sugary sweet, like poison and honey. "Isn't she your white moonlight?" Jason's reply shattered the last illusion I had left. "She's an outsider with no backing. Without me, she's just a nobody. That whole white moonlight crap was just bait, so she'd keep donating blood like a fool." I froze. My ears rang, my body trembled, but I forced myself to walk away in silence, every step up the mountain heavier than the last. When I kneeled before Master Everett again, my breath was ragged. "Please let me go back," I begged, "not to him, just back to my world, the real world. I don't belong in this twisted reality." The temple was silent, his presence unseen. I thought I'd been abandoned until, finally, his voice whispered in my mind, solemn and sad. "Once you leave, you can never come back. Are you sure?" I didn't answer, I only nodded through my tears. As I turned to descend the mountain, the fog parted and a sleek black Maybach came into view. Jason burst out before the car even stopped, his shirt still wrinkled, a red-brown strand of hair clinging to his button. Rachel's. He ran toward me, pulling me into a tight embrace, his eyes dripping fake concern. "Why'd you come up the mountain alone, babe?" the housekeeper told me, and I thought it was a joke. I smiled, hollow and bitter, and held out the crystal of luck he'd long coveted. "I came to walk early." "Why the panic?" His eyes flickered, a momentary flash of guilt before he covered it with a charming grin. "I was afraid you'd leave me. Today's the last day, the only day every 8 years you can choose to stay or go. And I know you love me." I used to fall for those words, every time. I endured year after year of bloodletting, letting him drain me dry for luck, until my immune system collapsed and my blood couldn't clot anymore. One paper cut could mean death now. So I tried one last time. I held onto one sliver of hope and asked, "Jason, if I stay this time, can we stop drawing blood? Your career's already booming. The doctors said I'll bleed to death if I'm injured again." He blinked, and just like that, his affection switched off like a light. "The market's unpredictable. I can't take that risk. I'll increase your security detail, just don't get hurt. Don't say such nonsense again." That was the moment something in me snapped. I smiled faintly, knowing I was completely, utterly done. As soon as we left the mountain, he dragged me straight to the clinic he'd built just for my blood transfusions. He pushed me into the sterile room with that same voice he always used to manipulate me. "Baby, this is important. I'm about to secure another round of funding. This could make me top of the industry. You've got to help me." I didn't even fight when the cold needle pierced my vein. But when I saw the label on the blood bag, Rachel Moore, I knew they weren't even trying to hide it anymore. When I woke up, I was lying in our master bedroom, sunlight filtering through lace curtains. My body was weak, my arms bruised. The family doctor was injecting glucose into my veins, whispering to the maids nearby, who were gossiping right by my bedside as if I were deaf or dead. "Why is Mrs. Freeman always pale and sick? Is she cursed or something? Haven't you heard? That little Rachel, she's been bragging. Says Mrs. Freeman's blood is feeding her. She's 3 months pregnant now, this might be the heir." I closed my eyes and let the words cut into me like 1,000 blades. Everyone knew. Everyone. And I was the only idiot left in the dark. I laid there, wondering how much time I had left before I collapsed for good. That was when Jason entered, footsteps light, voice syrupy smooth. Zoe, are you okay? You passed out from such a small amount of blood. Could your blood be malfunctioning? Are you feeling sick? Tell me anything, okay? After all, we've been together for so long. His hand brushed my cheek. I opened my eyes slowly, locking onto his gaze. There was no love there. No witty. Just that sick obsession with my blood. Right then, a scream pierced the air, and the housekeeper burst into the room, breathless. Mr. Freeman, some bad things happened. Jason scowled and snapped. She's sleeping. Can it wait? But the housekeeper whispered something, and I caught one named Rachel. Jason bolted from the room, panic written all over his face. I heard the whispers trail behind him. She fell down the stairs. There was so much blood. Do you think she'll miscarry? I heard there's a secret blood bank downstairs. All of it? Hers. I didn't move. Just let the tears roll down my face, while a twisted smile curled at my lips. I was no longer afraid. I was just empty, hollow, completely done. And that was only the beginning. I forced myself to sit up, even though my body felt like it was made of glass, and every movement might shatter me. The pain had become something I learned to ignore, like the static hum of a machine you can't turn off. But this time, it wasn't just pain, it was fury. I was done lying in that bed waiting for Jason Freeman to bleed me dry, and I had to see the truth with my own eyes. The servants were gone, rushed to the hospital with him to check on Rachel Moore, the mistress who had supposedly tumbled down the stairs with blood gushing from beneath her. And me? I was just the power source, left behind in case the transfusion had to continue. I walked through the cold, silent house, every corner now laced with betrayal. The living room was a mess, but I ignored it and went straight to the storage room the maids had whispered about. When I pulled open the industrial freezer's heavy door, a gust of cold air slammed into me like a ghost. Inside, perfectly arranged and catalogued, were blood bags, blood stacked with the precision of a lab experiment. I counted. 1,000. 3 years' worth. 1 bag a day. I choked on my own breath and stumbled back, hands over my mouth, until I tripped on the staircase behind me and crashed to the floor. My vision went black for a second, but the sharp throb in my head grounded me again. They really treated me like a damn livestock unit. I dragged myself back up and walked out of that cursed house like a phantom, taking every bank card, ID, and document I had. I canceled everything. Credit cards, insurance, safety deposit boxes. I took out the jewelry Jason gave me on our wedding day, the set he claimed was a family heirloom, and posted it online at a laughably high price, daring anyone to ask me why I was letting go of something so priceless. When I came home, he was already sitting in the living room, shirt wrinkled, face dark. He looked up when I walked in, and without a single word, he slapped me across the face so hard I fell backward onto the mahogany sofa. The taste of blood filled my mouth, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared up at him as he loomed over me, eyes full of cold fury. Zoe Harper, he hissed. Didn't I warn you not to take medicine without my permission? What did you take? A few days earlier, I'd had a raging fever, probably from one of the infections I kept getting thanks to my suppressed immune system. My temperature hit 104, and I had to take antivirals or risk organ failure. But that was apparently a crime in Jason's world. I covered my split lip and spat out. I was sick. I took a pill. What are you really mad about, Jason? That your miracle baby might be affected? Or that your little blood machine dared to think for herself? His face twisted with rage, and he grabbed my jaw tightly. You think I don't know you heard what the servant said? I told them to say it. I wanted you to know. You're stuck here now, Zoe. You'll never go back. Ran, his disgusting nickname for Rachel, felt sick after your last transfusion. Almost lost the baby. You want to know why I'm mad? Because I can't afford to lose either of you. You keep donating like a good wife, and you'll keep the title of Mrs. Freeman forever. Ran isn't trying to replace Yosha's kind. She doesn't want competition. She just wants to live. Every word was another match tossed into the gasoline pit in my chest. He really believed I'd just accept it, like some charity case he could guilt into compliance. That night, he forced me to go to the hospital for a full blood cleanse. Said he had to flush out the meds. In truth, he wanted to reset me like some defective device. I lay in that bed while they drained and replaced everything inside me, my nerves screaming as they pumped me full of fluid. It felt like dying and waking up over and over again. When I could finally walk again, I returned to the hospital room where Rachel was supposedly recovering. Her ward was pristine, not a drop of pain in sight. Instead, she was lounging on the same silk sheets I had hand-embroidered for Jason using my family's heritage techniques, now crumpled beneath her like trash. Her fingers were perfectly manicured, playing with the fabric like it was a toy. She giggled. "Jason, I'm so happy. I love you so much. Who do you love, Maureen, or your boring wife?" Jason laughed, rubbing her feet, smiling like a man without a conscience. "You're way better. I can't even pretend to like Zoe anymore. She's so pathetic." I didn't cry. I didn't run. I stood outside and watched it all with a numb heart. And then she looked up and saw me. She didn't flinch. She smiled. A cold, cracked, manic grin. "Jason," she purred, "your old wife can't even give you a child. But this 1 inch," she touched her belly, "this baby is your first. You better take care of us, or next time, you'll be drawing liters of blood to make up for it." That was the moment Jason softened like putty, kneeling beside her, kissing her stomach. "I'd drain every drop from Zoe if it meant you, and our baby were okay. She can't escape now. She's ours to use. I'll give you everything you deserve." I almost bit my own tongue from how hard I clenched my jaw. I tasted iron and hatred. But strangely, I felt something shift inside me. My blood, it felt different. Like it knew. Like it was waiting. And that, Jason Freeman, is where your empire starts to rot. Because you're about to learn what happens when you drain the wrong woman dry. The day before everything fell apart, Jason Freeman was still basking in his illusions of control, thinking I'd never find the strength to leave, still treating me like his personal blood donor on a lease. The media had just leaked footage of him and Rachel more shamelessly making out in an observatory, and the scandal hit the stock market like a sledgehammer. Shares of Freeman Corp nosedived, and for the first time in years, the man who thought he was untouchable was facing public backlash. Mr. Freeman Sr., the patriarch, was so furious he tied Jason up in the family's ancestral hall and had him whipped in front of the staff. Meanwhile, Rachel was stripped of her designer clothes and locked in a freezing storage room, probably for optics more than punishment. That family had always been performative. And me? I returned to the old Freeman estate on the outskirts of town, the place I used to call home, only to find the staff running from the hall like their lives depended on it. I grabbed one of the maids. "What's going on?" She looked at me like I was the second coming. "Mrs. Freeman, thank God you're here. The old man's beating Mr. Jason like crazy after seeing the gossip news. Please stop him only you can." I didn't say a word, just walked straight toward the ancestral hall, where Jason hung by the wrists, shirtless, his back crisscrossed with whip marks, blood dripping onto the stone floor. He was panting, sweaty, miserable. Normally, I would have jumped in front of him, pleaded with the old man to stop. Not this time. I stood in the shadows, arms crossed, and just watched. Mr.
Freeman Sr.
paused mid-swing and sighed. "This family has risen thanks to Zoe Harper's blood. You went and provoked her like a fool. What now? How do you plan to clean this up?" Then he looked around the room and muttered, "When she gets here, we'll let her calm down first. Pretend to compromise. Once she's softened, we'll draw her blood again. Rachel's fine, she won't die. Just drain Zoe quietly afterward to make up the difference." I nearly laughed. Quietly. Like I was a faucet. Like I didn't hear every single word. Jason moaned weakly, trying to play the victim. "Grandpa, you worry too much. She can't go back anymore. She's stuck with us. She'll always be our blood bank." Mr. Freeman narrowed his eyes. "You idiot. If she gives that blood to someone else in anger, it could destroy this family. You think you've won, but if she turns, you're all screwed." Jason smirked like a devil who thought he had God on speed dial. "If that happens, I won't hesitate. She won't get to walk away with dignity." My stomach turned. These were the people I'd bled for literally. I wanted to scream, to burn it all down. But I stayed silent. Calculated. Because what comes next would be my revenge, and it had to be cold, not impulsive. "Zoe, when did you get here?" His voice cracked, panic bleeding through. You didn't make a sound. I looked at him calmly. What's wrong? Did you do something worth hiding? He blinked, then glanced at the old man, who quickly stepped in. Zoe, sweetheart, he's been punished already. Look at him. Forgive him just this once. I didn't reply. I just stood there, watching them try to manipulate me again with bruises and theatrics. Then Rachel was escorted in by the butler, acting like a damsel in distress. Her face was flushed, lips glossy, neck covered in fresh kiss marks. She had one hand on her belly and the other on her lower back like she was carrying the child of destiny. Zoe, I said, looking at her blankly. What's going on? She collapsed with a dramatic gasp, moaning. My stomach hurts. Jason, help me. Help our baby. Jason didn't even hesitate. He ripped the rope from his wrists, stumbled across the room, and cradled her like she was a queen, and I was just furniture. Call the doctor. Get a transfusion from Zoe now. The guards moved to grab me. I tried to pull away, eyes burning into Jason's face. You can't keep drawing my blood. You'll kill me. He walked up to me slowly, voice low but ice cold. Stop being difficult, Zoe. The less you resist, the less it hurts. I'll even order a big plate of liver for you after, to help you recover. Don't make a scene. I lowered my head, biting down my fury, and whispered, Jason, are you sure? His silence was the answer. He waved, and the guards pushed the needle in again. As the blood began to drain from my body, I heard the voice of Master Everett in my head like thunder on a stormy night. If you die within 1 day, you will return. That phrase repeated over and over in my head as everything blurred. I blacked out. When I came to, the birthday banquet was in shambles. Rachel had started bleeding profusely in front of everyone, her white gown soaked in red. Her screams were banshee-like, echoing across the marble floors. Jason. Our baby saved the baby. Something's wrong. Chaos erupted. Servants ran. Guests screamed. Jason froze, staring at the blood like it was the end of his legacy. At the hospital, Rachel was pronounced stillborn. She went feral, attacking me in the hallway, shrieking like a woman possessed. What did you do? You witch. You cursed me. I was too weak to move, barely able to hold onto the wall as she clawed at me. I told you, I whispered, breathless, you can't drink my blood anymore. It's not lucky anymore. It's poison now. Jason heard it, and his whole face twisted into something monstrous. He lunged at me, grabbing my throat and slamming my head into the wall. You've ruined everything. Rachel. The baby. My legacy. He barked at the bodyguards. Take her to the farm. Put her in the cage. She wants to play games? Let's show her what hell really looks like. I didn't even fight as they dragged me into the black van. What was the point? I was already dead inside. But what he didn't realize, what none of them realized, was that I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. They didn't even wait for me to recover from the blood loss before hauling me off like an animal, tossing me into the back of a van, and driving me to some godforsaken countryside farm Jason Freeman owned as a private punishment camp, except it wasn't just for punishment, it was for breaking people. When we arrived, I was stripped of everything. My phone, my ID, my name. They smeared lard all over my skin, locked me in a metal dog cage barely big enough to curl up inside, and dumped me in the middle of the woods behind the compound like I was bait. I could hear wolves howling at night, foxes circling the cage, even rumors of tigers crossing over from nearby reserves. I was terrified, but not of the animals, no. What truly horrified me was the realization that Jason had planned this. He wanted to erase me, make me disappear without a trace, just another ghost in the dirt. And then, just when I thought I couldn't be humiliated further, a drone buzzed down from the sky and hovered directly above me. I didn't even flinch. Jason's voice crackled through a speaker attached to it, casual and condescending like he was narrating a vacation vlog. How is it, Zoe? Regretting it yet? That attitude of yours didn't get you very far, huh? I looked up, eyes locking on the blinking red light of the camera, and let a faint smile tug at the corner of my lips. Jason Freeman, I hope you never forget this moment, never forget what it costs to betray a woman who stood by you for 8 years. There was a long pause on the other end of the drone, like he wasn't expecting that. I could hear the faint edge of panic in his voice. What are you planning, Zoe? Don't do anything stupid, but it was already too late. I reached for the rusted latch of the cage and opened it myself. I stood, barefoot and bloodstained, and walked toward the forest, where the scent of raw meat and fury hung thick in the air. The drone caught everything. The attack. The screams. The chaos. It broadcasted Jason's downfall in real time, live-streamed to the hidden server his tech team once used to monitor me. That night, his screams were louder than the wildlife, his agony more raw than any animal's roar. And when it was over, when the drone went black and the system flatlined, I knew it wasn't just the end of Jason Freeman's empire, it was the beginning of something else. Because when I woke up again, I was back at Mount Wutai, wrapped in warm blankets, a cup of medicinal tea steaming by my bedside, and my senior brother rolling his eyes while muttering, "She finally woke up. Took you long enough." Senior sister even brewed this herself. "It's cheery plenishing, you need it after what you've been through." My body was still aching, but I felt strangely light, like I'd shed something toxic. I stayed on the mountain for a month, and in that time, I gained back the weight I'd lost, stopped waking up in cold sweats, and finally learned how to breathe again. I spent my mornings watching pilgrims climb the stone steps in endless streams, and every now and then, I'd spot someone odd like this one guy who kept coming to light incense, then spent hours playing with a striped tabby that hung around my yard. He never spoke, never looked around, just sat there like he belonged. After a couple of weeks of observing his weird ritual, I walked out, arms crossed, and asked, "You really like that cat, huh?" The guy jumped like I'd caught him stealing. He stood quickly, brushing off his pants, his ears flushed bright pink. I didn't know anyone lived in this yard. I'd been feeding it for over a year now. I raised an eyebrow and smirked. "You know, that cat's my senior brother. You've been flirting with my family. Least you could do is introduce yourself." He looked genuinely stunned, then scratched his head, clearly flustered. Xie Qingshi. "My name is Xie Qingshi." I nodded slowly. There was something peaceful about him. We didn't talk much that day, but when I turned to leave, he suddenly blurted, "Would you maybe like to get coffee sometime?" I turned back, surprised. His cheeks were pink, his voice hesitant, but his eyes, they were soft. Kind. And for some reason I couldn't explain, I said yes. Senior sister teased me endlessly the next morning. "So soon," she laughed. "Didn't think you'd bounce back that fast. I thought you were going to emo in the mountains forever." I rolled my eyes. "What? You want me to become a nun for a guy like Jason Freeman?" "Please." Xie Qingshi and I met at a quiet little cafe in town, and I let him talk. He shared everything, his past, his job, his love for art and animals, and I listened. Really listened. For once, I wasn't on edge. I wasn't waiting for betrayal. It felt safe. But then, just as I started to feel like maybe, just maybe, I could start over, I saw him. Jason Freeman. Standing outside the cafe window, watching me with bloodshot eyes and half-gray hair, looking more like a ghost than the man I once married. I walked outside, arms crossed, unimpressed. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Zoe, I finally found you. Do you know what I had to give up to get here?" I looked over my shoulder at Xie Qingshi, who was patiently waiting by our table, then turned back to Jason. "Not my problem." He blinked, stunned that I didn't fall apart at the sight of him. "Zoe, I drained my body 3 times. I purified everything. Your master said if I did that, I'd get a chance to see you again. I just wanted to tell you." I cut him off, voice sharp. "Did he also tell you the consequences? That you'll be dragged back soon, maybe even worse than before?" Jason's lips trembled. "I know. But I don't care. After you died, I went to the farm, but you were gone. I searched everywhere. Rachel came to comfort me, and I raised a hand. Spare me. Let me guess. You fed her to the tiger, didn't you?" His silence confirmed it. "And now you think you can come crawling back and play the tragic hero? You don't get redemption, Jason. You get regret." Just then, Xie Qingshi walked out and took my hand. Without needing to be told, he laced our fingers and stood beside me. I lifted our joined hands in front of Jason's face like a banner of freedom. "This is my fiancé. We're getting married soon. He doesn't need my blood to succeed. He does it on his own." Jason flinched. I leaned in, tone razor sharp. And you? You're still a parasite. Then I turned and walked away with Alex, feeling his warmth beside me, the kind of warmth that didn't come with a price tag. Jason Freeman, your chapter is over, but mine is just getting started. Just when I thought Jason Freeman had finally vanished like a bad dream, he showed up again, this time shirtless and kneeling in front of the temple gate at Mount Wutai, like some kind of tragic martyr from a low-budget drama. It was early morning, the mist still curling over the stone steps, when Senior Sister yanked open my door with a groan. "Get up," she grumbled, dragging me out of bed like I was late for homeroom. "Your ex is out there scaring the pilgrims again. This guy's thicker-skinned than the yak we used to herd." I squinted out the window and, sure enough, there he was, kneeling on thorns and whipping himself in front of the temple gate, bleeding and begging like that could erase years of cruelty. Curious onlookers surrounded him, recording his performance like he was the opening act for karma itself. I dragged myself outside in slippers and a hoodie, not because I cared, but because the scene was so embarrassing I had to end it before the temple became a meme. Jason's body was covered in fresh lash marks, open wounds oozing blood down his pale skin, and he looked up at me with those haunted eyes like I was supposed to crumble into his arms out of pity. "Zoe," he rasped, "I have nothing left. I've been punished by everyone. Please, for the sake of what we had, don't be so cruel." I tilted my head, looking down at him like I was observing roadkill that suddenly learned to beg. "Didn't I already tell you what I wanted for you?" I asked sweetly. "To lose love forever and live the rest of your life completely alone." The second the words left my mouth, thunder cracked across the sky like the universe itself was waiting for me to say it. Rain poured down almost instantly, sending the crowd running for shelter. But Jason didn't move. He just stared up at me, terrified, because he knew something bigger had heard meaned it wasn't done with him yet. A thick mist surged from the forest behind the temple, wrapping around his broken body like a curse manifesting in physical form. And then, in a blink, he was gone. Disappeared into that swirling fog, leaving only bloodstains on the temple steps and the lingering echo of his name lost in the wind. Later that week, Master Everett showed me what happened after. A cruel little preview of the future he earned. After Rachel's messy death, which, yes, was very real, her family came knocking with lawsuits and torches, and they didn't just threaten the Freeman family, they dismantled it. The estate was set ablaze. The old man had a stroke and ended up paralyzed in bed, his mouth twitching, one hand clawing at the air while the other couldn't hold a spoon. Jason? Oh, he wasn't even living indoors anymore. They strung him up in the ancestral hall again, but this time not out of ceremony, this time it was just punishment. They whipped him 999 times, tore open old scars, made him relive the exact same pain from our early years, but this time, there was no girl running in to stop it, no bowl of hot soup, no ointment. He screamed my name over and over again, but I didn't feel a thing. Just watched. The Freeman Empire fell like dominoes. Companies they once crushed came back with full force. Investors pulled out.
Client ghosted.
Within months, they were broke, blacklisted, and bleeding out. Jason was kicked out of the family, and every door he knocked on was slammed shut. Eventually, even the Freeman name became a punchline in corporate circles. And Rachel's mother? She found Jason curled up under an overpass, cradling a crumpled silk bedsheet embroidered with the exact stitch pattern I created with my own hands. The embroidery was burnt and stained, but he clung to it like a lifeline. Her voice was cold when she saw him. "You finally reached rock bottom, huh?" But the real nightmare began when a disfigured woman stepped out from the shadows behind her burned scars covering every inch of her face, but her eyes sharp with vengeance. Jason's body tensed when he realized who she was. "Rachel," he stuttered. She held up a glass bottle filled with something black and thick and disgusting. "You fed me to a tiger, Jason. After all I did for you, after drinking your wife's blood, carrying your child, you left me to die. Now you want sympathy?" She unscrewed the bottle cap and dumped it over his head. The scent of acid and burning flesh filled the tunnel. Jason screamed, writhing on the pavement, his skin blistering. "Give me back Zoe's blood," he sobbed between gasps of pain, crawling toward her. Rachel just sneered. "Dream on." She took out a few final blood bags she'd stolen from the Freeman estate, held them up mockingly, then drank them in front of him one by one like they were wine. The joke was on her, though. The blood had been reversed, twisted. It no longer brought luck. It brought ruin. She collapsed hours later, foaming at the mouth, her death grotesque and unexplained. Her name landed on the news for a single viral cycle. Jason was blamed. The police found no solid evidence, but Jason didn't fight it. He just gave up. The day he was executed was the day I married Xie Qingshi. After all the chaos, all the bloodshed, my life finally felt calm, safe, joyful. I spent my days helping guide confused pilgrims and my nights eating dinner with the man who never asked me for a thing but gave me everything. I never told Qingshi the full truth. Some things are better buried. But the day I found out I was pregnant, it all clicked. It was my 29th birthday. I asked the doctor if I could taste my blood just once, as strange as it sounded. She hesitated but agreed. I took a drop on my tongue and smiled. It was sweet. Not bitter, not sour. Sweet. That was when I realized the blood had changed, not because of rituals or purification, but because I had. The pain, the despair, the betrayal, it was gone. I was happy now, and my body finally knew it. Years later, I was walking my daughter to kindergarten when we passed a dirty man sobbing under an overpass, rocking back and forth over a tattered piece of cloth. It was that same silk sheet. My embroidery. I froze. My daughter tugged at my sleeve. "Mom, why is that dirty man crying when he sees you?" I looked at her, then back at the broken figure, who used to be Jason Freeman. His face was unrecognizable, burnt, aged, hunched over like time itself had rejected him. But I knew those eyes.
And he knew me.
I smiled softly and said, maybe because he did something very wrong. My daughter nodded, not really understanding, but trusting me anyway. We walked away hand in hand, sunlight spilling over us like a blessing, as the man behind us wept into the pavement, his cries drowned out by the sound of morning traffic. And just like that, I closed the chapter, not with rage, not with revenge, but with peace. The kind of peace he would never taste again. Sometimes, when I close my eyes at night, I wonder if all of everything that happened with Jason Freeman was just a fever dream from another life, some twisted karmic trial I barely escaped. But then I wake up to the scent of freshly brewed coffee, my husband's arms around my waist, and my daughter giggling in the other room, and I know this peace is real. I earned this. I bled for this. I crawled through hell and spat in the devil's face for this. After Jason was gone for good, after Rachel's death hit the news and the Freeman family became nothing more than a tabloid cautionary tale, I never once felt tempted to look back. What would I be looking for? Regret? Closure? Please. Jason's ending was exactly what he deserved. I didn't have to lift a finger. In the end, the world finished him off for me. But life has a funny way of leaving little bookmarks in our story, doesn't it? Like when I took my daughter, now 5 years old, to her first dance recital. She was twirling in a sunflower yellow tutu, arms flailing, completely offbeat, but proud like she was on Broadway. I was filming her with tears in my eyes when one of the moms leaned over and said, "Your daughter's got so much spirit. She must take after her dad." I smiled politely, but deep down, I knew that wasn't entirely true.
She got her strength from me.
She got her light from surviving inside a woman who almost lost it all. The world didn't give me power. I rebuilt myself from scratch, bone by bone, thought by thought, until I became someone no man could ever break again. That same week, a package showed up at the temple addressed to me. No return label, no note, just a small wooden box and a faint scent of incense that made my chest tighten before I even opened it. Inside was a folded piece of parchment, handmade, aged, marked with the seal of my old master, Everett. I hadn't seen his seal in years. Not since he helped me escape the blood contract that tethered me to Jason's empire. On the parchment, written in his neat, deliberate script, were just a few words. "You are free. You may now teach others what it means to survive." And underneath that, my old blood record, stamped with a giant red symbol that meant reversed karma. That meant I was no longer someone who carried others' fate. I was the one shaping mine. It was closure, the kind no apology or trial or public disgrace could ever give me. That night, I lit incense, knelt beneath the full moon, and whispered my thanks into the mountain wind. Then I kissed my daughter goodnight, curled into bed beside Qingshi, and fell asleep without fear. The next morning, a reporter tried to reach me for a story, The Freeman Curse. Where is she now? They wanted a headline, a tragic heroine turned fairy tale queen. I didn't even bother answering. Let them speculate. Let them imagine whatever version of me helps them sleep at night. The truth is, no one will ever fully understand what I went through. How it feels to be loved for your utility. How it feels to have your blood cataloged like a product on a shelf. How it feels to watch someone smile at you with the same mouth they use to tell another woman they love her more. But I survived. That's the part they never see coming. They never expect the girl in the corner, the quiet wife, the so-called lucky charm, to stand up, to set fire to the cage, to watch the ashes settle and then build a throne from the wreckage. I did that. And I'm not ashamed. My daughter will grow up knowing her mother never bowed, not even when it would have been easier. And if, someday, she ever finds herself in love with someone who tries to make her small, I'll remind her who she came from. I'll tell her about the girl who once lived as a walking blood bag for a man who thought she'd never leave. I'll tell her how that girl shattered his world with nothing but silence and walked into the light without needing anyone's permission. And when the time is right, I'll hand her the parchment, the old record, the proof that no matter how twisted your fate starts, you can rewrite it line by line, drop by drop. As for Jason, if he's still somewhere in the underworld, clutching that burnt silk, sobbing over the pieces of the empire he lost, I hope he remembers everything. I hope the echo of my footsteps still haunts him. I hope every night he dreams of the blood he stole and the woman who stopped needing him to survive. Because that, more than any curse, is what he truly deserves, not death, but awareness. The painful clarity of knowing he lost the only person who ever loved him honestly. And she moved on. She lived. She won.